Great.
Oh, good.
Got it. Thank you. Good morning. We're a little behind schedule, but we're going to go ahead and start the City of Ocean Shores Radio Board meeting. And good morning to everyone. Let's do a little quick roll call. And I'd like to see Rosanna, I see your name?
I am here.
Thank you very much. And Daryl?
Here.
Right on. Voice is working well. I'm here, so we do have a quorum. And then we're also joined by Sarah and Bob Peterson, our rep from the City Council, Butch and Trey. And I see we have Don Williams in the wings. We'll address that in a moment. Trey and Butch both present too. So thank you all for attending. We need to next approve the meeting agenda. Can I hear a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I make a motion to approve the meeting agenda. Rosanna here.
Thank you, Rosanna.
Daryl, I second.
Okay, great. Any discussions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote to approve. Everybody say aye if you wish.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 3 yes. Thank you. All right. Approval of the minutes from our previous meeting is our next item. I don't know if is there any discussion on the minutes? If you've had a chance to review the information that was provided by Mike, our then secretary. So hearing none, do I have a motion to approve those minutes that were presented for the June 22nd meeting?
A motion to approve those minutes presented at the June 22nd meeting.
Thank you, Rosanna. And again, any second?
I second that motion.
Daryl, okay. And any follow-up discussion? None heard. We'll vote for yes or aye, or however you wish to vote, as an affirmative or a negative.
Aye.
I vote
Aye.
aye, 3 ayes. So that's great. Thank you very much. All right, we're on to public communication. So Sarah, may I turn it over to you for a moment to manage that?
Absolutely. I did not receive any written public comments. We do have one citizen on the line. It is Don Williams. Don, do you have a public comment?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep,
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't. I'm just listening, and have a nice day, everybody. Have fun at the meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Well, moving on to the chair's report, I have a couple of items. Thank you. First thing I want to talk about is, I know since we have such a small group, but I just kind of want to go on the record and both thank the board members for their participation in studio and remote broadcast activities of the station. I mean, we wouldn't be able to get by without our participation. But I feel like we may need to ratchet that up, partly because there are fewer of us right now, but we want to obviously expand that promptly. But I want to encourage, like Daryl came out over the 4th of July weekend and helped with some of the tent setup out on the beach and all of that. And we just want to raise the involvement of the board in the, what do I call, the higher visibility in particular, but any kind of an effort that's going on. And certainly I want to encourage the board members to be creative with their thoughts on how we might be able to do more things to not only improve the visibility and reception of the radio station to our listening public, as well as to the city's needs, but also just to kind of set a tone of good, positive involvement. Second thing that I wanted to bring up was we will be, and we may touch on this again later, but I just wanted to make the announcement that before the end of this week, which will probably be on Thursday, but I might do it sooner depending on our needs. We will be closing the account at the bank for the KOSW account, and everything will be rolled over to city management. And Sarah has kindly outlined the specifics of what I need to do to properly close out the account and have a reporting of the transfer of sums from the remaining balance in the account to a cashier's check or other bank check delivery to give to the city. And then the whole new process will be fully underway. So that's just kind of a notation. And let's see. I think that's pretty much it for right now. I've got a couple other items that I was going to mention, but I've moved those over into later categories. So I think we're on to onto the treasurer or the designee treasurer's report. Trey, are you able to give us a quick rundown on the information you provided?
Sure.
That should have been part of the package that Sarah distributed.
Sure. First off, I'll say that in anticipation of closing the accounts, we have paid off our Visa, so it's at 0. We've emptied our PayPal account. That money has been transferred into checking, and we haven't been writing any checks. We've just been operating off of petty cash. So
Okay.
if you take a look at the unofficial account balances down below, petty cash is a little bit lower than it was, but it shows both the Visa and the PayPal are at 0. And our checking is at $3,903.58.
Excellent. Thank you. Do any of the board members have questions for Trey on that? Okay, hearing none. Let's move on to item 5, the station report from Butch and Trey. You guys want to toss a coin?
Let Trey go first.
Okay.
This is something I've see like Bob and the various people on the city council where the mayor says, like, time for your staff reports. Do you have anything to report? And I'm happy to say I have nothing.
Good.
Well, I'm not.
Sometimes
so fortunate.
quiet is good. Sometimes quiet is bad, but sometimes quiet is good.
Oh, boy. Let's say my turn now then.
It sounds like you got handed the hot
Okay.
coal.
Sarah, this question's for you. How soon will we have account codes that we can use at ACE or IGA or whatever?
I'm getting those set up with Jenny, so hopefully within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, now will they will notify both the ACE and whoever they're for that we are now part of the city and we'll be using our account codes there?
Correct.
Okay. And then the second question, I know that city council approved, was it $150 in petty cash or something like that? Is that correct?
That's correct, and I'm supposed to receive it from finance on Thursday.
Okay, so how do we obtain that $150?
I'll call one of you.
Okay, and then we just go ahead, pick up we ain't in a check, right? It's in cash, right?
It's in cash, and we got a lockbox that goes with it, and then I'll have the documentation for reconciling weekly with it, and I'll go over it with whomever, or I can come to the station and do that also.
Let me just interject. We have a locked file cabinet here where we keep petty cash currently.
Well, now you can keep a lockbox in the locked filing cabinet.
That'd be double locked.
Okay.
Great.
The other question on that is that like once a month or how's that set up?
You'll reconcile weekly.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I got you. Okay, that takes care of that part. We have, I would say, new DJs coming back, but we have a couple older DJs coming back.
Great.
Sunny Ash is going to be coming back sometime in August on Wednesday afternoons. And Moda Mark will be probably coming back. He's a little hesitant right now due to the COVID thing that's breaking out, but we're going to probably bring him back on Tuesdays. And Daryl, are we doing Wazoo Nation?
It's looking like it. Yeah, we're going to try to flame on the first of the month.
The first Thursday of the month?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll make the corrections on their schedule then on their calendar and stuff.
Thank you.
And
Butch.
thanks for reminding me about the on air yesterday. That was interesting. We have so far done 2 festivals this summer. We did the Sand and Sawdust, and we did the Hog Wild Friday and Saturday, and that has netted us a total of $500. And we did a $5 donation from Associated Arts for Labor Day. So far we have this summer we have made $1,000. And Superhero, we don't know how much we're going to get donated to that one, but it's very possible. Maybe we could get it close to $1,500 this summer.
Wow.
And we used to get nothing for doing this. So this is
Sure.
quite a nice surprise for us.
Good.
And I've had pretty good participation in these events from our volunteers. I have not had to do the music once so far. I won't be doing it this weekend either. So that is a big change in how we're doing things.
Good.
And it's great that guys stepped up and went together on that. We are currently looking for another volunteer that wants to do event planning and marketing with us. So all these events that come up, we have it ain't me that's going to be doing all the work. I got somebody that can help do the scheduling, set up, work with the festival people that are putting it on and getting that all set up. So that's one of the next volunteers we will be looking for to help us out. So I'm kind of excited about that one. It saves me a lot of work. I'll have some more to report on the next board meeting. Maybe I'm going to be meeting with Diane. We're talking about some events happening this fall and winter that will involve the radio station in the city. So
Right.
I'll have more to talk about that next month, hopefully.
Excellent.
And the rest of the stuff you've got at the end of that we're going to talk about apparel and merchandise. So I'll wait for that one to come up.
Okay.
And that's my
Well, great. Thank you, Butch. Appreciate that. Anybody have questions for Butch on this round? Well, very good. Okay. Well, thank you, and Trey. Appreciate that. Let's see. On the technology report, let's see. Some of this kind of crosses over to the item 10, but let's see. As far as the technology report, one of the things that happened over the 4th of July weekend here in the Shores was everybody remembers that we had the power outage, right? In the midday that, lasted several hours and pretty much affected almost the entire peninsula, and if not the entire peninsula. And we suffered some demonstrations of weakness in our ability to keep the public informed during this power outage, as well as during all the events of 4th of July anyway. The challenges that we were presented with were the loss of internet connectivity. So we couldn't communicate with Coast Communications, and to add a little additional perspective, our telephones were down at the studio because the telephones, the 2 phone lines that we have, are virtual phone lines that are internet IP phones that are part of the package from Coast Communications. So when the Coast Communications facilities lost the internet distribution capabilities, we not only lost the internet, we also lost the ability to call anybody from the station. So we became blind very quickly. And fortunately, we were able to reroute audio to get on the air, no problem, as far as at the transmitter, because we're on the city generator system for both the studio and the transmitter. So we were able to keep that part going and at least have information out on the air. But again, no telephones, and just made all of that providing pertinent information to the public difficult. So very shortly after the event, we had a little brainstorming session and came up with an approach to send to Sarah, asking for a minimum of one additional phone line that comes from CenturyLink. Hopefully 2 lines, because that gives us the most flexibility to be able to have calls coming in while we have a hotline or a special line just for city call in for support information, things like that. And to that extent, we're also, Sarah and some of the folks over at the City Works are checking in to find out about the availability of any, I hesitate to call them surplus, but when the bulk purchasing of telephone lines, oftentimes for like a municipality, they buy bulk, say, I don't know, 50 phone line numbers, and then they just get warehoused and distributed as needed throughout their organization. And so we're going to look and see if there are any phone lines that could be rerouted, in essence, over to the studio that might already be present at the City Works office. If not, then the next step is to have CenturyLink drop in 2 lines at the studio location. As far as the internet goes, one of the challenges there is if we order up an internet connection through CenturyLink, we have to physically switch between the 2 internet providers depending on which one is available. So we don't want to do that, and it's not appropriate, and it's not failover automatic. So I found an electronic switch device that's just it's exactly designed to do that, and it gives us 2 advantages. First thing is having 2 internet service providers. They each provide us a certain amount of bandwidth. By bonding the 2 through this, I don't remember, what was it? The price, Sarah, was it a couple $100? I think it was less than $200.
With tax, it came to 202.
Yeah. And so we took a feed in, or we will take a feed in from Coast. And when we get the feed in from CenturyLink, or potentially some other provider, but I think for reliability locally, that CenturyLink is probably the better alternative compared to satellite and a few others that have latency problems. So bottom line is this box takes both of those internet resources and couples them together to give you the combined bandwidth availability. So if you get 100 megabits or 50 megabits from Coast and 25 or 50 megabits from CenturyLink, we have in effect a nice wide, relatively wide pipe available for all the activities of the station. In the event of either one of the 2 providers fails, all you do is reduce bandwidth down to the normal bandwidth that you used to have. So it's a resilient, self-healing process. And so we're going to be implementing that shortly. I just want to make sure that everybody realizes both the nature of these types of outages and how we discover them. And I am very, very pleased to reinforce how thoughtful the city is in maintaining our ability to provide emergency and any important news during such events. So Bob, obviously indirectly to the city council, thanks very much for the, incorporating that kind of spirit within our the business sections of the city, and thanks Sarah for following up on that and getting us approval for those. So I wanted to be sure to check those items off of my my hot list there. And yes.
Yeah, we had a device similar to that for television that we used that had like 6 different cell phone channels, and
Right.
it would bounce between all of these channels all the time, sending small packets out, and then at the other end recombine it. And that's how you see TV today in
Right.
news cars and stuff. So
Right.
it's a proven technology. So that's a very good idea. Very
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, it works out well. And the portability aspect of that, particularly in television, generally outweighs the cost. But the bonding of multiple carriers like that through Verizon or some other commercial carrier possibly really has opened up the avenue for, live field reporting and much better content delivery to the public. So yeah, it's cool stuff. It works well. Let's see, details on that. And I think that will move on to Bob Peterson. Do you have any reports from the council that are of importance to us?
Well, I just learned from Trey how to say this. I have nothing at this time.
Well, thank you. Sometimes the brevity is the lifeblood of these things, so we can keep moving. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Bob. Does anybody have a question that we can pitch to Bob while we've got him present? Good. Okay, good. Well, we'll let that go then. Okay, Ocean Shores board vacancies. We've received 3 applicants, paperwork from 3 applicants, Lewis Simmons, Thomas Gardner, and David Bunch. The challenge we've had so far is a couple of them, Thomas Gardner's penmanship is really difficult for us to discern all of what he's trying to communicate to us. So that was one of the first thresholds that, to me, said we need to see and chat with these people directly. And I'll ask about that in just a moment. And then I noticed that on David Bunch's application, it's not signed or dated. And I'm not sure if that means that it was filled out on his behalf or what, but it makes me just ask the question is, did he actually apply, or did his neighbor say, you should be on the board? Because we have no idea. Like I say, there's no signature. So, although I guess there is an email trail that Sarah could follow back if necessary. So Sarah, I'd like to ask how would we do that to have, is that like a study session to have our board members kind of interview these potential new board members, or how does that?
So you could choose to do it that way. The planning commission currently has the chair and a member of the city staff. The planning commission specifically has the chair, the mayor, and then the city administrator, and they all interview. They have a list of interview questions. And then the chair comes back with, this is what I found out. This is my recommendation. You could choose to do it a different way. You could have a special meeting so that you could do your interviews, if you could do all 3 of them and set it up that way. And then you could take action if you had it at a special meeting. At a study session, you wouldn't be able to take any action. So you would then have to schedule another meeting in order to approve anyone. So you have a ton of options.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Do any of the board members have a preference in how we conduct an interview of these candidates or applicants, I should say?
Yeah,
Darryl, do you have?
Yeah, I would like to see, I'd like to have everybody submit questions to these applicants. We have in looking over those applications, we have some stellar applicants. So it's not that there's a lack, but I think we need to make sure. Well, we just need to be fair about all this stuff, and I think we ought to have a list of questions, and then during the interview process, we ask only those questions that we've approved, and then rate each one of those questions, and then the person with the highest score, the 2 highest scores, would be the ones that move on. I think it needs to be, it's kind of a good way to evaluate people. We ask them maybe the same tough questions, and it's the way that they respond to it. So it's not one person that gets a softball, someone else gets a tough one. I think it's a fairer way to go.
Well, how about if we do this? what if each of the present board members selected 3 questions. They developed their own 3 questions that would be shared across the candidates. And like you say, we could present it to them in advance so that they could have some time to prepare if we wish to do it that way, or we can just conduct that at the time that we actually do an interview. I think we should, rather than have a Zoom meeting with all 3 present, it should probably be one at a time invited in for their interview. But I do like the idea of having, a set series of questions, and it could be 2 or 3 questions from each of us. We can incorporate those together and make that our list, or talk about it a little bit separately.
So just a caution.
Yes.
If you do them, if you because it's just you, Daryl, and Rosanna on the board right now. So if you do a meeting or a interview where all 3 of you are present, or you have a quorum, and so that is a meeting. So you would have to schedule 3 separate special meetings or study session. Like if you're just asking questions and going to take no action, you would have to schedule 3 separate ones of those and go through the required posting to the public and so on, and make it available also to the public.
Well, wouldn't that just be, can we do that in a regular board meeting then?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, and we could have them serially set up so that at 11:15, the first round of questions go out, 11:30, the next one, and 11:45, the next one, or something like that. I don't know.
Hey, Sarah, does this become part of the HR type meeting, where maybe an executive session?
I don't know if a interview of a applicant would fall under executive session. That's definitely something I could look into.
And not
I think
that I
it'd be
don't want the
worthy.
public, but it just should be kind of,
Yeah, it should be kind of private. And I think, again, that's why Planning Commission does it in the fashion that they do, because it's just the chair, the mayor, whom you make your recommendation to appoint, and then she goes for council consensus. I think that just cuts out it gives the applicant the privacy. It doesn't mess with a quorum of the body of the board. So I think that's kind of the aspect, but the executive session is definitely something. I just don't know off the cusp the answer to that. But that's something I could look into, where if you could do it in executive session to adhere to the privacy of the applicant, and then you could come out and make, a determination based on your, you guys speaking afterwards in executive session also. That seems like something totally plausible, but I'd have to look at the, executive session RCWs and see if that's something. I think there is one, but without doing a little bit of research, I wouldn't be comfortable answering it point blank.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at the bylaws. I only see study sessions as a resource for this type of activity. I don't see any more any kind of executive session. There used to be a section that said we could, like, didn't it say something about with permission of the
Yeah, and I think that there was
mayor or
something to be said where you guys thought it was kind of silly that you'd have to get permission to go in executive session. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, can I, Marty?
Yes, go ahead.
Before you were on the board, we revised the bylaws 2 or 3 years ago. And executive session was in there, and the city made us take it out, said we can't have executive sessions.
Okay, I thought I remembered some discussion about that. That's probably echoing in my head. Yeah, because we're not, we're just an advisory board. I keep
Right.
having to remind myself that too sometimes. So we don't usually need all of the mechanisms that are available to decision-making board. We have the city council has to make, and the mayor, I guess, have to make the call after we make recommendations, is the way I see it for things like that. But okay, yeah, it'd be helpful, Sarah, if you could get a kind of a quick handle on what our options are for that. And we want to certainly do everything we can to make it fully visible and participatory. So we'll take what steps are needed, and that would be very helpful to have that in front of us to know the range of the options there.
Hey, in the meantime, how about we submit to you, all of the board members submit to you 3 questions. So then if things start happening, we can make it go quicker.
Okay, yeah, and I could formulate those up. Would that fit okay, Sarah, if the individuals communicated with me rather than as a collective?
Yeah, as long as it's individual and not a group messaging, that's totally fine.
Okay, wonderful. Okay,
individual emails to you, Marty, from us.
Sure.
And
Great. Is that good with you, Rosanna?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Okay. Wait. So we'll table the board vacancy process until we've made a clear decision on the interview process that Sarah's going to be able to give us those additional notes about. I don't have anything else under old business. So let's move on to new business. So as far as the FCC application for license renewal for KOSW, we're awaiting the actual opening of the window from the FCC, but we're fully prepared, and there's no reason we shouldn't be able to hit the timeline on that. Then we have the emergency alert system equipment. As I'd mentioned at previous meetings, on August 11th at 11, which is Wednesday, at 11:20 a.m., all across America, hopefully their intention is that every cell phone, every radio station, every TV station, every cable channel, although there are a couple of weird hoops there that they don't have to, it's going to be participating in a national emergency alert test. It's called an NPT, which is National Periodic Tests. And it's a combined effort between FEMA and the FCC and the White House. Because as the original intention of the emergency alert system, when it was devised back in the 40s and 50s under different names used for distribution, it used to be called Conelrad and a bunch of other names. Yeah, Daryl's smiling. In any event, there's this national test that's going to come. And the idea is that if the White House in particular, or now, because they actually, I think they tweaked the terminology in the act, Congress did, I believe, to include not only the White House as being the dissemination source for calling for national emergency alerts, but also FEMA. So now there's the Office of FEMA has the ability to generate these emergency alerts on a national or even a regional basis. Should some horrific event or amazing event, whatever it is, that someone has felt strongly enough that everybody needs to know about it. So we've had 3 tests of this in the past, and the first one failed pretty badly, but that's why we test, is to find out where we need to bolster our underpinnings for the security of disseminating information to the public. So last time, 2 years ago, they skipped last year. 2 years ago, we participated, and we were kind of, I guess I would say, indirectly thanked in the press for participating, because a lot of low power FM stations have not participated in the past. So we already have our foot in the door there. And this year, in fact, they've been really pushing to have every radio station, independent of what their class status is, to participate. So we're already, we did have to buy an update for our emergency alert system box that monitors incoming alerts from not only the internet, but also from other radio stations and from NOAA Weather Radio Service. So I paid for that, and I think the city's going to reimburse me eventually here. But that was like $495. And everybody that had the type of equipment that we have has to do this periodically. We don't know when they come up with these new things, because FEMA comes up with new protocols every year or two. I think part of it's security patches, things like that. So anyway, we're in good shape for that. And let me see. So again, be aware that you're going to hear all sorts of burps and beeps and announcements from the feds on Wednesday, August 11th at 11:20 a.m.
Hey, Marty, I've got a question on the license renewal.
Yes.
Is there any thought about changing frequencies or your transmitter patterns?
Sure. Well, this is just a renewal process that is every 10 years nowadays. Actually, it's either 8 or 10 years now. They modified the program when licensees permits come up for renewal. And it gives an opportunity for citizens to file against radio stations and say, no, they're not doing nearly enough public service, and here I can demonstrate, that kind of a thing. That's what license renewal is for. Is otherwise we'd have in perpetuity licenses probably, and the squelching of public input could become a real thing. So this periodic license renewals is really what that's all about. From the question that you're asking, the answer is yes. We are looking at opportunities for the station. There are potentials of frequency changes. There are potentials for power increases. There are potentials for location changes. So I've been working particularly with Nick in discussing locations where there could be some opportunities in the future, both from the standpoint of where do we put the replacement tower as our funding is coming in? Is it going to go somewhere in the public works yard, which wouldn't be bad? But if we select other locations to put this replacement tower, there are some benefits that can be brought to our community's coverage here. And in the form of, and I'm kind of walking cautiously because I don't want to make anybody think I'm promising this or anything, but there are some locations, I'll just put it that way. There are a couple of locations here on the peninsula where there is city property available. Well, I shouldn't call it available, but there is city property such as parks and a couple of other locations, water tanks, things like that, where we could actually end up getting a taller structure than the present tower. And that could be bringing not only us some additional coverage of our footprint, but also police, fire, and other services of the city that use the tower. And then the added advantage of opening it up for potential income generation by future tenants that would like a 112-foot tower, 113 feet, which our existing tower is. It's not a huge attraction to people who want to really be able to blanket the community with good cellular coverage. So if we're fortunate and we can develop a location that meets our needs and provides a location where there is no existing tower, we may very easily get a couple of the cellular companies to join in and be able to either become tenants and or co-sponsors, that kind of a thing. I think that frankly, from the management standpoint, we would want them to not be co-sponsors, but rather be tenants. That usually is a cleaner path to follow on those things and gives the city a bigger hammer if somebody's not participating properly. So yes, thank you for your question. We are quietly investigating those things, and there is an opportunity coming up with the FCC in November. They haven't set out all of the guidelines yet, but they've been carefully dropping breadcrumbs that are lined up with potential for an alternate frequency with more power possibly. So these are all being kind of churned, and we'll see where they go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's move on to well, let's see, I've already capped both 9 and 10, I guess. Discussion under 11, mutual cooperation and co-location. Daryl, you have the floor.
Okay, well, we met recently with the folks at North Beach TV to look at a plan to increase our cooperation between the two communication entities here in Ocean Shores. And I should probably add that my first job in television, I was a master control switcher. So my job was to load up tapes or slides or audio cassettes and manually play them and programs. And I would play tapes and or the news, and then you would run the commercials. So I'd be loading up the tape machines, and then when they would say, let's go to break at 11:25, I would roll something at 5 seconds before, so it hit the air at 11:25:00, and 11:25:30, you'd roll something or put something else on the air. So that was my job. So what the TV station, this North Beach TV, they're on a channel that Coast Communications gives them, and they've also got an internet presence, and they've got some YouTube channels. So what they're in looking at what they've got the studio, and they've got some space, and we're looking at sharing space. Well, what the TV station really needs is something to take the place of my initial job. And now they've got computer programs that will do that. So, I mean, they're creating content, they've got the web page, they're shooting stuff out that way, but it's kind of hodgepodge. You never know when it's going to go out. They've got it's a pull system. So you have to go there and go to the YouTube page and pull it in. And it's not really a push on the TV channel. The channel itself on Coast is a hit and miss. I mean, whenever I'm channel surfing, I always stop by there to see what's going on. 9 times out of 10, it's nothing, or it's an old program and then you have no idea when something else is coming on. So what they really need is a product that would do the video switching on a robotic basis. So you take they're doing some great jobs as far as doing interviews and programs. You take these programs and you ingest it into a computer as a computer file. And then the program does something like what we've got at the radio station, where it will automatically play all the commercials at the top of the hour that you want to have, and plays the weather things. And so the DJ just has to play music. Well, it can be something very similar. It could also do picture in picture. You could do a menu of what's coming up today, and some of the great opportunities for cooperation would be to have KOSW radio on that channel during the times when they don't have anything on. So if you've got an interview that goes for 22 minutes and you want to have something else, you want to be along with the norms and have things start at 1/2 the hour, you've got 8 more minutes of stuff to fill. You could put billboard things up. You could put the weather, the tides, and a bunch of things with KOSW radio. It just picks up whatever's on. So I put together a report for them, and I emailed it out, and I discovered 10 different products that's appropriate for a community TV station. It's basically low cost. You're not doing the same kind of stuff NBC would use, or they call themselves North Beach TV. So CBS would use that. So a network channel or a commercial place wouldn't use something as simple as what they need, but in any event, it's going to run around $10,000 to get something that's commercial, off the shelf, plug in, and it would work. I did identify a software product that's free, and free is better than cheap, but it means that someone has to reinvent the wheel. So once they decide what the TV station wants to do, what product is appropriate, what product level, what kind of deal they can get from salesmen, would be I guess that'd be the path forward. So a number of salesmen have invited us to come and take a look at. They'll do virtual demos on things, and it's really amazing on the stuff that it can do. There's a whole cadre of films and specials on archive.net, which is a whole bunch of public access TV shows. You could fill up the day with, I mean, every Friday night you could have a goofy science fiction movie that's just a drink beer movie. But I mean, you've got specials about the oceans and geography and things that you could use to make it kind of an interesting channel if you had the ability to let the people know what's on there. So I think there's a special word they call this stuff, where it's an image where you squeeze the show down, and off the side you've got all the time could be your program guide, and it would automatically change. So,
Hey, Daryl,
yes, sir.
we could also, we could involve the interpreter center. They could do a hour special on they do. The library could have a special. There's a lot of things the city could do if they promoted it, put it on there, couldn't they?
Yes.
I'd also like to see the Quinaults get involved
there you
and
go.
doing stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far the cable company goes. I think it goes all the way up to Holyoke. I was going to check in on that, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
The one question I have though is, you talk about all this money, but they aren't owned by the city. So where are they going to get their money to do all this?
Well, that's where they're selling sponsored. They're a nonprofit, and they're selling sponsorships right now. And so they don't have the funds to cover it. So it's a matter of what their sales is like. Yeah. And some of the products will work just like what we're doing now to cover the city council meetings, or we're doing to do sports remotes, and even downtown remotes, where it's a single point-to-point internet connection from here to there. And then at the radio station, you guys spread it back out again. Well, this other software can do the same thing. So you could do.
My thing is, and I don't know, this is probably a question for Sarah, is we are both going to be going after the same underwriting people in the city. As this TV station is looking for sponsors, we are looking for sponsors. Being as the city owns the radio station and the TV station is independent, can we work together using those sponsors? I mean, like, split the cost, the profit on, or whatever you call it, from the sponsors.
The donation, yeah.
Donations half goes to the TV and half goes to the radio station, and we can then promote those advertisers or those sponsors on television and on the radio
As a package, yeah.
And on the Facebook as a big package. But since they're two entities, I don't know, can you do that?
Well, there's multiple things with multiple entities, and there's agreements that would be drafted between those two entities saying, this is what we're going to be doing. This is the policy and procedure for our underwriting funds. We will do this based on these dollar amounts that we receive. We will, if we get a $200 donation, 100 goes to the radio, 100 goes to North Beach Community TV. It all comes down to the agreements that the city would have with North Beach Community TV now. Like, we have a contract with them now, but if KOSW was going to be, for lack of a better word, in bed with them,
Yeah.
we would have to, maybe amend our contract or amend our agreement, or write a totally different agreement that would just be between KOSW as a city entity with North Beach Community TV. I think it's definitely doable. There's just a lot of logistics that go with it, but I think it's absolutely doable.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's the whole concept that we're going into this in is developing a cooperative environment between the two media sources that are available to the city or within the city. There may even be able to be some linkage to, I don't, I could be putting my toes in some simmering water, but the former press newspaper, you know, there are all sorts of people who are familiar with information collecting and being able to feed back into this collective group. So that's one layer of the vision that we've talked about is, you know, a cooperative financial, cooperative resource pooling, and the potential of co-location to better use the space that they have that goes unused much of a day. And with any luck, we'll be able to develop a schedule or a routine where some portion of the Lions Club space, fortunately also owned by the city, could be repurposed temporarily for the TV's activities. Opens up the possibility. I had somebody mentioning to me yesterday about particularly at the Lions Club, that the kitchen is a substantial value for that location. It surpasses the kitchen that used to be available to the radio station over at the Elks Club by quite a mark. So that's something to think about, because, you know, we could do lunch with so-and-so and have sit down kind of an environment. Could be the mayor, could be Nick, who knows, whatever, whomever, some outside resource that would be informative to the city and to the populace, where we could do things on a much larger scale and just, you know, get better and more community involvement and have people come to these kinds of things like that would lend themselves nicely to the utility of the space. And so I just wanted to throw that out there as kind of a general picture of the direction we're talking about. Theoretically, in the long term, we could physically relocate the studio facilities up to the area there.
Can I?
Yes, Butch, and then Daryl. Butch, go ahead first, and then Daryl.
Well, it's okay if I give a little history how this is all coming about, because I don't think Bob or Sarah knows how all this started. Okay, is that all right?
Yes, go,
Okay.
please.
Originally, Marty, I think it was a year and a half or 2 years ago, we were getting ready for a budget. And we know we survive in an 800-foot square building. It's very, very small. And we have totally outgrown it a long time ago, but we keep making it work, right? So in our budget, I wanted to put an addition onto the building. Well, that never even got to a budget because we got poo-hooed and tore down before it even got started. So we talked to Marty, said, well, why don't we buy a shed? At least we have storage, because that's one thing we don't have is storage. And so that's when we put in our budget to buy a shed. And I think, Sarah, it was like $5,000 for 120 square foot building or whatever it was to put on the deal. And so once the budget was approved, I went to Nick to find a location so we can put our shed there, so we can put our storage in. And I got the runaround. No, and not yet. Can't give you permission yet. Can't give you. That went on for 3 months, trying to find. I kept making the shed smaller and moving the location of it and everything else. And Nick kept saying, no, I can't tell you why. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Finally, he comes up to me like, what was it, April? I think it was, Marty. When you guys were right in the process of almost purchasing the theater. That's when he says, now I can tell you why I didn't want you to buy a shed, because the city is proposed, they're going to buy the theater and move the police station in the theater, and the city wants to give you the old police station. We got just thrilled. That was just awesome. Well, then the theater went down the tubes, and there goes the police station. So that's when we were talking for more space of combining with the TV. They had that little old shack behind the Lions Club there, which is not a whole lot bigger than our station. It would need some work to be done. But instead of what I want to get clear here, if the police station is, if they're going to build one in the next year or so for the police, would that, and Bob said they're going to tear it down. I'm going, well,
That's
they
my
already told us.
personal opinion only.
Okay, that makes sense. So if we could move into the police station, now I've never been in there other than the reception area. I haven't
Oh,
been
you've
able to
never
see
been
all
Wait a
the
in the
minute.
back,
rooms.
huh?
Wait a
You've been
minute.
in that cell.
Sure.
But I'm hoping that there would be enough room that we could put a TV studio in there. We can have a radio studio in there. We can have a production room in there. We can have and lots of storage. But if the police station is not going to ever be available for us, then the Lions Club is our last hope. So that's where I'm at. I'd rather know if we could go to the police station, fine. If not, then we'll set our sights on the Lions Club. Does that make sense?
Yes, so let me add to that, Butch. In order to make that happen, we could do the Lions Club, but then you would be, if you put offices and stuff in there, you would be taking away from the utility.
Oh, no, Daryl, we weren't going to do that. We were going to remodel the old, the outbuilding
Right,
to fit the
Right.
radio station.
yes.
And then the TV station said they didn't have to build walls or anything.
Well, in order to do that, to make it feasible, you really need to get those products that does this on-air switching, so that if you had a remote, you could not use the studio that's there, and that would open up that whole space that you could use for the radio, and TV could have the small control room that they've got now, because it's got a fiber link to the mothership at Coast
Oh,
Communications. And so they keep that room. Maybe we could do some duplexing and sense other stuff that way as well. But then you would, by getting that type of program software that allows you to do point-to-point broadcasting, you could use the Lions Club as the remote studio for the TV type. So whenever they wanted to do an interview, they just go there, pull up some couches or some other set pieces, and it would make it work. So I think that switching gear is tantamount to making this whole plan work.
Yeah. And of course, the intention would be to not disrupt the routine activities that go on in that building, whether it's what's it called? The theatrical group that uses it periodically. There would just be a cooperative effort put forth to manage the calendar and make that happen. So, okay. Anybody else? Roseanne, do you have any questions for any of us?
No.
Okay.
My only thing is, Marty, is I don't want to put a lot of money into the TV station if we had the police station available for us. That's what my question is.
I understand. Well, that'll have to be part of our whole, I mean, we're
Right.
we still have the binoculars out practically. We haven't really entrenched ourselves into the environment there to get all the details together. But at least we're, I want to show that we're thinking about these directions, and that, we want to make sure that we have the city's blessings on the general direction that we're going. And so that's why I want to bring these up and bring them out. Pardon me. So I think that wraps it, unless there are any other questions on that. We can go down to future agenda items. I would like to
Wait a
put,
minute, you
I'm
forgot
sorry.
Number 12.
Oh, merchandise. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had made notes below that and I've thought about it. Okay. Sorry. Those belong under 11. So yes, let's motion forward to 12, the radio station merchandise discussion, because there we will have to have some vote, I believe.
Right. Well, you all received the proposals that I got from the city, from their vendor for T-shirts, long sleeve T-shirts, hoodies, and hats.
Can you run us through those numbers real quick? Just the, because what we need to be able to do is, know what
Okay.
items there might be and the costs, and then we can move forward.
Now, if you look on the first page there, it is for the hoodies, the pullover, core fleece pullover hoodie sweatshirts. Now, each size you get, it's got a little different price. But that comes to $872.45 for the hoodies. And that would be,
Are these the figures that Sarah developed, or are these the early prediction or
oh, these are from
directions?
brand makers. They're the same vendor that the convention center uses, I believe.
Okay,
Okay, and I got prices from places in town in Aberdeen, and these prices are a lot better than the prices I got from the individual vendors in the town, like Shirt House,
wonderful.
Shirt Image, and those guys.
Great. Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
The second sheet is long sleeve t-shirts, because we had a lot of requests for people who like long sleeve t-shirts. And that came to $937.65. And the other page, oh, these are caps. Okay, these are the hats. Ordered 75 of these hats, and they're $1,156.25. And you got a picture what the shirts will look like. Did I miss the t-shirts in there? Somehow
Yeah,
I
you did.
missed a
You
page
You got
of
the
t-shirts.
long tees, but
Yeah, well, there's one for short tees too, short sleeves. I must have doubled up here on something.
The total cost for the short sleeves, long sleeves, sweatshirts, and hats is $3,649.60.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. I didn't have a chance to add all this up yet.
that's a pretty big chunk. Can we divide that up? Maybe make an order that's a split order?
Well, you order so many to get a certain price.
Sure,
The less you order, the higher the prices go.
of course.
So
Are
there's
we
a
right
limit.
at those thresholds? then?
Well, I don't know. We're right at it. We were right at it the ones when I was ordering in town. It was like a 200 limit, something like that, where the price break was. But when you break it down, you've got all these sizes, and so when you break it down, what do? You go down to only a few sizes, a few for each size, and then I don't know how you break that down, Marty.
Well, I guess you just look at your expectation of use. I mean,
Well-
if we are at the threshold, if you have to have a 50 count or a 100 count of each to get to these kind of dollar points, we just need to make sure that we're at the appropriate point. If this is too much dollar wise to consider being responsible at this point, we may have to pay a little bit of a higher price for lower quantity of product. I mean, what's your vision of how long do you think these are going to be sold, right?
Well,
They're
other
not
than
all
some of the
giveaways.
volunteers will probably get a shirt or a hoodie, but other than
Sure.
that, the rest will be sold. And
What's our volunteer?
Well, what we want to do is we want to start a merchandise online ordering.
Sure.
So people can go on our website and order a hoodie because we get all kinds of requests for different things, even bumper stickers. Do you have any
Sure.
bumper stickers? So this way, and they don't go bad. Once we have them, we have them. I mean, they're not gonna.
Well, just as a cautionary note, and I'm not trying to predict the future, although I hope that the future goes this way. It's possible we'll end up on a different frequency. So that's something to think about in the amount you want to front load. I mean, it would probably, honestly, December, it would probably be close to a year from now, or maybe even September, October, before there would be a determination as to whether or not we would have an opportunity to actually change, because other people are going to be filing for frequency changes when the FCC opens the window. It just happens. And if somebody comes up with a superior application from the standpoint of improving coverage to their communities or whatever, somebody else might be able to get one of these channels. And then that would preclude us from going that way. So I don't want to hold the brakes on too tight, but at the same time, I want to be realistic that and then they kind of become a little bit of a collector's item, because it's like, I remember what it was back on 91.3 kind of a thing. But at the same time, we don't want to start developing a situation where we have confusion introduced. So
is there perhaps a trend report of sales that, like, this is our biggest selling point, like where if you're trending shirt sales specifically or more so, maybe we order the shirts and a lower quantity of the rest or something like that? Like, do you have like a trend report of sales?
If I was going to cut it way back, it'd be hats and hoodies. Those would be the two biggest sellers.
And I only say this because, we're still in year one of the biennium budget, and with all of the safety things that are coming up and the need for purchasing higher tech equipment, with everybody's input, it's just fearful for such a large amount in year one to be used on merchandise that could sit on the shelf. It might not, but it could sit on the shelf. I'm just adding a cautionary tale with all of the upgrades and all of the license application, all of the things that are costing money, that if there's a trend report of these are our selling features more over maybe something else, that might be worth looking into.
And do you have it broken down as to how many you're going to give away, and then how many would be potential revenue?
Well, I wanted to talk to board about what we would give away to our event, to our volunteers. Do they get a choice of what they want out of it, or do you give them a couple? I don't know. That's up to you guys. But the other thing is, Sarah, is there's two things to look at in our budget. One, since we can't get a shed, there was $5,000 sitting there that we're not getting to spend. And there's a new board, Marty? We're pricing for.
Yeah, but that's already been carved out. I think that was already carved away from the budget. So there's no expectation that the differential is still there, I don't believe.
Well, how did that get carved out? You gave it away? Marty, you give our money away?
I may have.
What is going on here?
Well,
I'm
and
just saying,
even with that $5,000 shed not being purchased, you're talking about $3,649, when just in, this week there was an upgrade that had to be done, or 2 weeks, there's an upgrade that has to be done for $495. There's the emergency. There's the emergency stuff that was $202. So it's just, I'm not on the board. I'm just looking at your budget. So.
Well, we can scrap the whole thing if you want. I don't care.
Well, no, it's not the idea that we want to scrap it. And I think those are valuable resources to our connection with the community, as well as our own volunteers. I think it shows the volunteers that they get to display their colors of the station, and that's fantastic. And it shows the community that we're out there and that there is a radio station here. I still am surprised how many people that I run into that they don't even know that we have a station. So, that goes to a high grade of raising awareness.
Rosanna here for a minute. Rosanna, I remember Butch. I love the t-shirts. I like all that. I think it's great that we show ourselves off like that and the public. I do remember, Butch, when I came there almost 4 years ago, there was a box or boxes of a lot of merchandise, of a lot of the t-shirts. And I think I remember you saying you had a hard time selling them. I personally don't understand it. I think they're great. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm glad we want to do that again, but maybe start at a lower price or a lower count, if that makes any sense.
No, thanks, Roseanne.
Thanks.
So what would be a reasonable minimum order that would kind of fulfill the wishes of demonstrating our presence?
I can't give you that right off my head, Marty.
Okay,
I mean,
Well,
that's something I have to
okay.
research.
okay, good. Well, I like that answer. That's good. That means two things. It means we're asking questions that hadn't been really pushed in the past, and that you're ready to dig into it. And
Well, let the board make one decision right now. What do you want to give to the volunteers? Because that I have to add in here, and that's our cost.
how many volunteers do we have at present?
Hang on a minute. I think I got problems at the station.
Uh-oh. Yeah, Trey. No, Trey's there. Okay.
I think including technical staff, maybe 18.
Oh, okay.
And that's including Mark and Sunny coming on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's real important that all the volunteers, if you're going to give something to one, that all of them across the board should get stuff.
I would like to point out that in the past, we didn't just give volunteers things, we sold them at cost.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I have no problem with giving volunteers stuff, but I also have no problem saying, okay, we're going to sell like this hoodie, $35 to the public, but for you, it's 15. That's cost. That way you don't lose any money.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it also adds uniformity to our presence when we're out on remotes. If everybody has common gear that they're wearing, you know how that goes. You know, it just kind of reinforces the advertising of our presence. So that's always good to see too.
Well, here's the other thing is, I don't know how to, if we have to wait till the next board meeting to okay this, then that means there will be nothing to sell at the Associated Arts Festival. And then our sports people like Daryl and those guys are doing football or basketball maybe, but we may not give them an apparel to even wear at the games by that time.
Well, but we already have apparel.
Daryl, you have anything to wear that's got KOSW on it when you go?
Yeah, I got a t-shirt.
Me too.
Yeah, I've got a hoodie, a hat, 3 shirts.
I'd like some hoodie.
I have lots of paraphernalia, but a lot of my shirts are two years old and they're falling apart.
Sure. So I guess the question is if let's just focus on the subset of this whole thing, which is just to cover the volunteers. So you have 20, let's just say we have 20 volunteers, just so we have a little bit of a buffer, because one of the items that I want to speak to next goes to that. And so for your budgeting purposes, you'd say we need 20 of, what is it you want to provide to the volunteers? You want tees? You want some tees, some hats, some hoodies? Do you want only hats and hoodies to go out? So we know we'd need 20. And then on top of that, if we can figure out I mean, it should be a back of the envelope, pretty ballparkish calculation you could do that would say, we don't hit the threshold of 100 units to get the big discount. But if we're going to buy 20 of these for our volunteers and have an additional 30 units available for sale, we should be able to get a ballpark number that we could vote on. I don't know if you can sketch that fast while we're sitting here, or
I was going to say, I don't think that we can do that at this meeting because, number one, like, I would say hoodies. But then there are a lot of people that just don't wear hoodies. I think we would almost have to poll our volunteers to see what it is that they would want.
Yeah, but you can't do that. We've just got to make a decision. I
Yeah.
mean,
How much
that
do
you'll,
you
because
sell
we'll
the
be
t-shirts
stocking too
for?
much stuff. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarah.
How much do you sell the t-shirts for?
Depends on how much they cost.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
what
do
have you done
sell
in the past?
T-shirts for right now?
If they do have to use.
Well, we don't have any
We don't
t-shirts.
have any
right now.
t-shirts.
No. She means in the past when
Okay,
you
in the
had them
past,
available.
all right,
Okay, we
15.
got, last time we got them, they were about $7 a piece on our cost, and we sold them,
For
I think, a
15.
dozen for 12, I think.
Oh, I thought we sold them for 15.
Did we sell 15? Maybe it was 15. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Somebody was a
Thumbs up.
math major.
I
not
know
a-
we have a woman
Thumbs
with
up.
the spreadsheet there, so that's good. Our city clerk at her best. We appreciate that very much.
So bottom line, Butch, I think it's a good idea. And then I think we just need to get the numbers down. So it's, in looking what I see as the amount of money that we've got is $3,900 total in the account. So I'd hate to
Oh, no,
drain it
that's
all.
our bank account. We still have the city budget we haven't touched.
Okay. I just don't want to drain it so much you
Oh,
can't.
no, there's $7,500 in the city budget this year and $7,500 the following year that's in our budget. Although
Okay.
I think it doesn't matter if we spend 8,000 one year and 7,000 the next year. I think it's all under one budget, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Okay, so just a rough, if you just ordered the shirts right now, which are $683.25, you do 20 for your volunteers at cost, and we're just averaging because I don't know their sizes. So that'd be $119. Then the sales would be $975 for a total of $1,094. So you would profit $410.75 off of t-shirts. So that's a very, not specific to sizing, because there are some difference, $1,
Right.
$3, whatever. But if you just did the shirts right now, spent $683.25, and you sold all of them and you sold them to your volunteers at cost, you would make $410.75.
Great.
So I mean, that's what I'm saying is, like, you'd have merchandise, you'd only be spending $683.25, and you would come out, in the black. So
Sounds good.
Okay, so how viable do you feel that is? I mean, obviously it's marketable, but as far as to our volunteers and to the public, is t-shirts adequate to get launched? Or I mean, what I'm getting at is, I'd like to maybe say, how about if we allocate $1,000 to promotional products that are to be sold at cost to volunteers and at fair market value to the general public. I know that that's a very specific term, fair market value, and I probably shouldn't have used that, but an appropriate similar cost to the general public. Would that be enough to kind of get you off square one, Butch?
I'm at square zero right now, so anything's better than zero.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't want to shortchange either. I mean, if it's $1,500 to get us really on a launch pad, maybe that's what we need to do. But I'd like some sense of our likelihood of I think the best process is to give you guys, the station managers, a resource pool that will get us started on this. And as we go along and we have, man, if they sell out in a week, fantastic. We'll order more, kind of a thing. So I see Trey's hand up.
This is a question for Sarah. Can we sell t-shirts if we're part of a city entity?
Well, we're selling them as a donation.
Well, the city just sold all their hoodies and sweatshirts, sold completely out of them at
Well,
Hog Wild. They
well,
did
I
that
know.
through a city booth.
I am just asking that as a city entity, can we actually sell shirts or can we only offer them for donation, which is different?
Yeah, on a donation, if someone says, I don't have $50, I'll give you 10, then you gotta let it go with that.
I don't
Well,
think,
you could always
Well,
set minimum.
okay, but Butch, I just want to know from Sarah if she knows the answer to that.
I do not know the answer. And from this conversation, you just told me you were selling t-shirts. So
Well, we've been selling them in the past, but we've been doing it out of our own bank account. There's several things that have changed with us over the years. You know, we didn't used to do background checks, for example. We used to have people fill out a piece of paper and we'd say, oh, come on in. But we're doing things differently. This is a new era. So I'm just saying we're having this long discussion and trying to decide, do we want this or that? But I think the basic question we need to know is, can we sell t-shirts?
well, I didn't get any red flags when I went through purchasing. So, I
Okay.
mean,
All right.
well, I know that Diane, they had a big information booth there from the convention center at the Hog Wild, and they sold all their hoodies, they sold all their t-shirts, all got sold out. So
Mhm.
how they were selling them, I don't know.
Well, but Butch, I'm just saying that's slightly different than us because there is not a convention center board. They're more of a kind of a different kind of an agency than we would be. I just was saying that, you know, I'd hate for us to do all this planning and get all ready and get going and then have Sarah send an email out to us and go, well, I checked with the mayor and no, you're not allowed to sell t-shirts. So that's just the only reason I brought that up.
Well, again, it's semantics. So you say, you just stick to the script, and the script is t-shirts cost a donation of X. Sweatshirts require a donation of Y. That's it. We don't give them out to not for free to non volunteers, and it's very clean. There aren't any significant expectations beyond just buying a t-shirt, you know.
well, and I think that there's something to be said about it is government money and we can't give out anything. So the only thing we could do is sell
yeah.
something.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that helps, Trey. Does that?
Well, no, it's just a question. It's just one of these things while we're going back and forth. I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if we have this long discussion and then we decide something and then a week later they say, oh, by the way, you can't sell things. So I thought that's why it would at least be good to ask that while we're doing this.
Sure. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I think we've crossed that bridge. Okay. That there's enough demonstration of past performance and results. And you know, if someone were to challenge, we can demonstrate that in the past we've always followed these procedures, and that that there is a significant profit motive to be able to keep the station alive through these donation packages. So, you know, and you could even, I know a lot of times non-commercial radio stations and television stations will do a fund drive where they have a package, you know, it's just like any other type of a situation where they'll do auctions and things like that.
That we can't do. I already know.
Right. Well, that's exactly. So as I agree with you that it's appropriate to have the discussion so we can make sure that that's aired out. I think we've crossed that. Okay. So among the board members, how do you feel about setting some reasonable dollar threshold that we should approve now and then be prepared in the future when the income has donation income has actually occurred, and we can launch into buying another bulk group of shirts and caps and things like that. I guess what I'd like to see is if Roseanne, do you have any specific thoughts on that, or would you like to promote a position on a specific amount of funding to be allocated for the merchandise?
Well, that was my original suggestion. Instead of starting at 3649.60, just lower it to start, and if we have to reorder if that's feasible and not difficult.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that that's appropriate. And I think that what we can do is also with prompt feedback from the sales side or the donation income side of the equation, we'll be able to get a pretty good direction for how these things are moving. And then we can be prepared for the next social event that's down here that would be likely candidates to purchase this kind of merch. So do you have a dollar value you would like us to vote on, Roseanne?
Well, you had mentioned 1,000, but what do you think, Butch?
Don't ask me.
Anything over a nickel is what he's
Please.
saying. Yeah.
Pretty please.
I mean, so to be realistic, is 1,000 enough?
Well,
Is
I'm just
1,500
looking
the
at-
number?
You know, when you don't have a variety to sell, you don't sell that much. That's what I'm telling you.
Mhm.
All you got is t-shirts. That's all you're selling is t-shirts.
Mhm.
And if we're selling in September at Labor Day weekend, it could be a foggy weekend. It could be whatever. Hoodies would sell. Hats always sell. I mean, we got one hat left out of the what did we order last time? 50, 75 hats?
You know, it's cold here. You know, I can't imagine that hoodies wouldn't sell. Well, what if you
Yep.
went up 1,500 or 2,000? I'm not sure, but it sounds better than 3649 for starters.
Yeah, and I'd just like to interject. If we did just the shirts, Sarah had mentioned about $683, and if we add in the hoodies at 872-ish, you know, it seems like we could nail this thing down at that kind of a price point, and make that the goal for this round with the view toward the future.
T-shirts and hoodies at least give you a variety of what you want. Warm or cold.
So a round number, I mean, we haven't included some of the possibly costs, but just a quick, again, back of the envelope, it would be like $1,600. Looks like it would be
Yes.
adequate to launch this kind of a program, demonstrate the continuous or a continuance of income generation through this model, and then prepare us for the next round.
Yeah. T-shirts and hoodies, that would work. Just need some variety. Yeah, Daryl.
Yes, Daryl.
Well, I move that we authorize, let's say $2,500 to start. And then you can get a nice variety, perhaps get a little bit of everything, yet let Butch use his discretion as to the volume and the types. But that's going to get us close to what the initial thing was. We don't get the deal, we won't get the volume and numbers, but I think 2,500 it's not 36. And it's perhaps a nice compromise.
Sarah, how do you feel about that relative to our position on the budget status? And then these are going to be going on sale promptly after they come in. So hopefully we'll be able to recoup and come ahead pretty quickly.
Can I, one thing Daryl or Trey and I talked about this. Originally, what we want to eventually do is set up an account with the vendor. So when people online order merchandise, they actually will order it through the vendor through PayPal or something. We don't even have to hold the merchandise. We just need a starter is what we need. I'd hate to go and set that up with a vendor and then we don't sell anything.
Mhm.
So this way would give us a chance to see how our sales are going. And then we can eventually turn this over to a vendor. So people would just order online merchandise they want.
Well, that makes good sense. Yeah. Okay.
That's Henry.
Okay, so Daryl, you want to make a motion that we go at $2,500. I haven't heard back yet from Sarah what her sense is relative to budget impact. Would you care to comment, Sarah?
No, I mean, I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
I would feel a lot more comfortable if there was a trend report on sales, just to be able to see how long it's gonna take for you to recoup or come out, profitable from them. But if we don't have that, I mean, like Rosanna said, I think she nailed it way better than I could have, that it sounds a lot better than $3,600. So.
Right. Well, and it gives us enough on stock on hand so we can both cover live events here, which is obviously very important. And then secondarily, start to really promote the sales through the website. And so that's cool. We'll, could I hear, let's see, Daryl, do you want to formalize the pitch for 2,500 and then we'll go through the vote on it?
Robert's Rules of Order, sure. I move that we authorize $2,500 for a general across-the-board purchase of promotional items, and
Okay.
which can be discretionary as to which items he thinks is of these clothing items are the best.
Okay. Could I hear a second for that?
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, or we've pretty well covered the bases, I think. Okay. Well, board members present, being a quorum, let's vote for $2,500 being allocated for promotional merchandise to be sold or offered at a donation specific price threshold. And so let's, I think we're in a position where we can vote. So those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay, we have a quorum vote in the affirmative. So we will allocate $2,500 to the management of KOSW. And
I got one more thing. I didn't want to
Of
add to
course.
this, but this is part of the promotional scheme. A couple years ago, the city talked about us buying window clings to go on the hotel windows in every one of those rooms. It shows KOSW as the emergency place to go in case of emergencies. And that would have been the expense of the city. And I don't know if Sarah, have you heard anything about that? If you want to do that or not?
I've never heard anything about that.
That might have been before you were here.
Oh, that could, Butch, let's just let's roll with what we've got. I'm trying to be
Well,
time sensitive to everybody too. But I would recommend that as a under the general category of promotional items, and it would be to the discretion of the management as to where that allocation
Yeah,
falls.
but the thing I'm bringing it up is because the city was going to pay for that.
Oh,
We weren't. That's why I brought it up.
okay. Well, it sounds like we could ask Sarah to perhaps do a little bit of research on that and see if that's still something that the city is interested in participating in directly. Or there may be relationships with others where they could get mention placement on the signage that could underwrite the cost, those types of things.
Right.
I don't know, but Sarah, if you wouldn't mind knocking on a couple of doors there at City Hall to find out if anybody has the backstory on those types of items, that'd be awesome.
Yep, I'll do that.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think the artwork shouldn't be just KOSW radio, but it should be something about the official
Yeah,
emergency.
that's what I'm
broadcast.
saying. It had our name on it, but it was an official place to go for emergency information.
Yes, and not just relegated to hotels, but to the restaurants, all businesses in town.
Sure.
Businesses, yeah.
Sure. Perfect. That's good. Excellent. Well, thank you all for that. One thing I'd like to, if we're prepared now to move on to the future agenda items, I'd like to, how to put this? I believe that it's incumbent on the board to create an outreach program to introduce additional female voices on the air at KOSW.
Hello.
I'm sorry, Roseanne?
Great idea.
Well, thank you. I'm not sure why we haven't had more interest percolate up from outside, but I'd like us all as board members to think about what we could do, and for a future meeting agenda, let's start presenting ideas of where an outreach might yield some talent, because there's bound to be some people who have not only the interest, but have the presence to be able to put on a radio show. There may even be retired radio personalities out here that we don't even know about, that may not even know about KOSW, who knows? So if we can individually start thinking about that process and put together some notes from casual discussions with people as we're wandering through town, or we see somebody and we go, you know, you have an interesting background. How would you like to be considered for an on-air position or other volunteer type positions? I think it is timely that we step up that, and so I'm just going to make that as do I have to ask that to be added as a future agenda item as a vote, or can we just do that, Sarah?
You ask for it to be added by vote.
Okay, so
Well-
I'd like to see is there discussion on this? I'd like to see a motion, first of all, to put the board in the mindset and action mode to specifically create an outreach to more female personalities for on air at KOSW.
Question,
Yes.
are more volunteers allowed to be quote unquote hired, Butch? Is that, I know you're bringing in more people, so is because of COVID and everything, are more people allowed to be in KOSW? I guess that's an important
Right
question.
now, we have no, with the future programming that we have coming up, right now, we don't have any openings for
Right.
any new DJs unless we start moving everybody's times around.
Right. That's an issue, it sounds like to me right now, plus Delta, you know, it seems to be worse out there, so.
You know, I'm even afraid, Roseanne, that if it gets worse, we may have to come up with the new shows, we may have to cut them back. Depends on how much bad COVID gets in
I
town.
think it's a predicament right now, and it's a
Yeah.
serious one.
Well, and or improve the ability to do remote shows. I mean, we've done that with Tommy. We've done it with the guy.
Yeah, but that creates a whole new ball game. We got a couple people that know how to do remotes. No one else really knows how to do it from home. We don't have the equipment to do it from home. We don't have the external drives. We'd have to, the underwriting. Trey, you can step in on this.
Well,
Yeah.
we have our talent that's in Aberdeen that doesn't come out here anymore, right?
Well, but he still.
You have
he
issues.
still-
here.
He still has issues.
Well, they're just technical issues. I mean,
No, they're not
this is not.
technical issues. They're more than technical issues.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we're having, we've had some issues and some discussions with him, but really, we've only got one or two people who are capable of doing it right now. Most of our people, it amazes me. I've talked with people on how to use our remote utilities. to just come in and gather their lists. And yet that seems to be a bridge too far for probably at least 50% of our volunteers.
Well,
I've wanted to do remote for quite a while, and apparently it is very difficult to be able to do from what you're hearing from Butch and Trey.
sure, Trey. I understand. Again, it sounds like most of it is technical problems and just people being familiar with what it takes to put on a show remotely.
Well,
It's certainly not impractical. Tom does it.
but Tom was able to do it because he had our remote kit.
Well,
and
I understand.
And Randall's able to do it because he has a remote setup, even though he's had a lot of connectivity issues, it seems, every week. Louis did it, but what Louis did was he taped his shows and then put them in a Dropbox where I would grab them and then load them into our system. He was not doing them live. In fact, Northwest Phenomenon and 45 RPM, these are podcasted shows, as are Bruce Hilliard's show, which is Better Each Day, and Radio Survivor. These all come in the form of podcast. They are not live.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can do a live show pre-recorded. All you're talking about
Right.
is the back announcing, fore announcing, drops of what's coming up, and that's that can all be done in a package deal. I mean, I continue to go back to my experiences in commercial broadcasting, and it's extremely common, particularly now, for people with very minimal setups at home. You don't have to have a big mixer or anything. Tom's setup doesn't have to have all of that equipment. It literally can be done with a very small footprint of equipment, but it's more knowing the routines to make it functional and reliable for people. And I understand, believe me, the frustrations of dealing with different operating systems. People, two of your people may only have Apple, or 6 of them may have Apple, whatever products. And so there are nuanced differences, and we need to take those into account. It's not impossible to overcome those.
Well, we're not saying it's impossible, Marty, but it's a hell of a lot of work on Trey and our spot to make that work. Everybody's going to have their own external drive and has to be updated all the time.
Well, that's money, though. That's money.
No,
but
it's work. We
Well,
have
no,
every
but
time
it's
we
also
put money in or new music into the system, and they ask for new music you put in the system. We have to take their external drive and download all that information and give it back to them, right?
Well, right, but Butch, my point
not
is
necessarily. There are other ways to do that.
The
in
money
background.
comes from, we would need several backups. We would need several of these external drives to load the stuff onto.
Well, okay. First of all, that's if we're sponsoring their involvement. I'm asking if we can get people who have a little bit of equipment. They're supposed to have knowledge of FCC rules, of operations of facilities, and all of that. So, the underlying functionality of it all is manageable. We just need to identify the minimum specifications to be able to do it. Many people have enough equipment short of a studio microphone at home ready to go.
Well,
we're not asking them to source information remotely, but they don't have to play their library of music. They're taxing the system that's already in place at the radio station. If they're not doing it that way, then we need to reshuffle the deck here and set it so that the functionality is far easier, less cumbersome to the users, to make it a reality. I mean, I know there are some things that we do that could be better resourced to make it a little bit easier for people remotely to be able to get in. Some of that there may be a cost of something, but my intention is to keep this at a bare bones financial exposure for anybody that's involved. So you go out and you buy, say we're going to support people, and they say they need a, I don't know, 75 gig drive or something. We don't even have that much music, I don't believe. But you could put that on a thumb drive these days. So $60, $100 per remote broadcast setup just for a thumb drive or a external hard drive. That's the cost of doing business for us to stay in business during COVID. So why not extend that to periods outside of COVID and then look at it from the standpoint of saying, we're prepared for the next time?
There's another big issue, and that comes with reporting. And the more podcasts we have, the more music we have outside, it just makes my job of putting these reports together for Sound Exchange that much harder.
Right, but we're doing it incorrectly, Trey. We're not doing it in a way that facilitates the information that you need to be able to generate for reporting needs. That's a function of how these podcasts are put together, because the proper way for the podcast to be put together, and I don't want to get in the weeds, I already feel like we already are right now, but we'll get through it, is that all the person on the remote end does is do the voice work. The rest of it all occurs at the station with the facilities that are already in place. They're just dropped into the scheduling so that it sounds like they're there, but they're not. Or if they want to do a live show, they do the same thing. They do the live show. All of the content is originated from the studio facilities, except for the announcer. The announcer just drops in, turns on the equivalent of their mic, back announces that was Junior Cadillac, and coming up next we have Grateful Dead or whatever, and bam, they hit the restart the automation and off it goes. So there are ways that we can manipulate the methods that we've developed, because I think a lot of the methods that have been developed and in use up till now, obviously they've been just enough to get by, and yet at that they're still cumbersome. So because this goes on all across America every day, it's not insurmountable, and it's not a costly venture. You don't have to spend thousands. You can, but you don't have to. I think that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, well, I am, the way you're laying it out, I'm okay with that, but that would mean that we would have to reinvent some things, because the way we work right now, what you're suggesting could not work, because there's about a 12 to 15 second lag between what goes over the air and, with our connectivity, there is a lag. So like, for example, when you're on a remote, and I've done a lot of remotes, what you're looking at going on at the station is you will not actually hear it through your headphones for 12 to 15 seconds. And it's when you're trying to manipulate things from a distant location, it's very confusing to do when you're not on congruent time. So, you could look on your little thing, like you're looking at the broadcast desktop, and it says the song comes to an end. In your headphones, it's still 15 seconds from the end.
Right.
Right. So I'm saying that it gets a little confusing as to what you're doing. The time sequence doesn't match up.
Well, but it can, because it's just how we are using it, because we can activate the remote audio from the, I mean, again, I feel like we're getting into the weeds right now. I want to wrap this up.
Right. This
We're-
is something you and I can talk about maybe later. I mean, I'm not against what you're saying, but there would have to be some changes to how things operate because I just don't think it would work now with our current setup.
Well, that's how progress is made, right?
Right.
A little bit of pain for a lot of gain, hopefully. And there are some easy methods that we can implement. Some of them may fit some types of programs, some of them may fit other types of programs. It's just balancing it all out and coming up with the solutions to get us over those hurdles. So, okay, so I would like to hear a motion to,
Wait,
or
Can I add
unless
one
we-
more thing?
Sure.
For future agenda items,
okay,
KOSW website being secured, it's unsecured right now.
oh, at HTTPS, yeah. We would have to do that if we're selling stuff.
Okay, so we need to get that on there and get our site secured.
Well, so what I would recommend there, Butch, is get a hold of Gary Kirkpatrick and ask him what steps we need to go through to affect that. Because it definitely, we want to convert to a secure website if we're doing any kind of actual merch or any kind of fundraising or anything like that, truthfully.
Okay,
So, so I don't know that really needs to fall under a future agenda item right at this point. It's more of a research point for you to work on, if you don't mind.
no, that's fine.
But I would like to get a motion to add a concerted outreach for female talent within Ocean Shores. I don't know what that means yet as far as how, but I'd like to put that on a future agenda item and then invite the board members to do their own research into the possibilities, and at our next board meeting, be able to have a discussion about that. So could I have a concise motion for something like that? Rosanna, will you want to kind
Well,
of frame something?
what you said, I'll make a motion to add concerted outreach talent for future female talent.
Okay. Any further discussions? I have a second. I mean, sorry, Daryl.
I'll second that. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion at the moment within the board? Okay,
But
hearing
I
none.
think I have a little
Oh, yes.
discussion. Yeah, I think that needs to be at Butch's discretion as far as making sure he gets qualified talent and not just someone off the streets. We've raised the bar on all of the on-air personalities, and I think we need to continue on that same pathway. So it's
Yeah, I think that's sound guidance. I don't know that we need to incorporate that into the motion, but I think it is good supporting comment. So those in favor on the board of creating this outreach, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, and aye from myself. So that does 3-0. So thank you for your participation there. And we're at that glorious moment of asking for an adjournment. So may I hear a motion toward adjourning?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Wait,
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And we'll vote, and yes, we're going to adjourn.
Aye.
Thank you all. All right, arrivederci, everybody. Thank you. This was both educational and very helpful for us to get a lot of this out here to others. So thank you all for your dedicated participation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, and good to have you on the call there, Don. Thank you.